Do you believe that a mother could murder her second husband and then cook parts of his body right in the small kitchen of her own home? And even more unbelievable, she did all of that just to protect her biological daughter from the very stepfather who once vowed to love them as family. In November 2011, a shocking case in Karachi, Pakistan stirred public outrage. A dismembered body, cooked in a large pot, a mother caught in the act, a girl rescued from a life of abuse and threats. But behind that gruesome act was a tragedy lasting over 5 years, filled with pain, despair, and a motherly instinct to protect her child at all costs. Let us go from the very first moment the crime was discovered, through the investigation, the horrifying confession, and the controversial trial that concluded more than a decade later. The case happened at the end of November 2011 in a low-income residential area in Karachi, the largest city in Pakistan. There, in a small ground-floor house, lived 3 seemingly ordinary people: a mother named Zainab Bibi Ahmed, 42 years old, her second husband Ahmed Abbas, and Zainab's daughter from her previous marriage, Sonia. Zainab was a poor working woman. She worked as a housemaid, leaving for work early in the morning and returning late at night to earn money to support her daughter and husband. Before remarrying, she had a first husband who died from a serious illness in 1999, leaving her alone to raise young Sonia. Many years later, in 2006, Zainab met Ahmed Abbas, a man nearly 10 years younger than her, who used to serve in the military and later became a teacher. They met at the school where Sonia was studying. Ahmed appeared to be kind, thoughtful, and caring toward both mother and daughter. That was what made Zainab open her heart and accept his marriage proposal. They married with the hope of building a new family, one that was more stable and loving. But that marriage quickly turned into days filled with tears, fear, and violence. From the outside, the 3-person family seemed peaceful. But inside, a silent storm had already begun long ago, just waiting for a day to explode. On November 24, 2011, the atmosphere in a boarding house area in Karachi, usually noisy, suddenly became strange. A strong foul smell, fishy and extremely unpleasant, began spreading throughout the upper floor. The first person to notice it was the landlady, who lived in the apartment directly above the home where Zainab's family stayed. At first, she thought it might be caused by a dead rat or spoiled food left behind. However, the smell grew heavier, persistent, and unfamiliar, suspicious. She followed the source of the odor and discovered it was coming from the ground floor apartment of Zainab. She knocked on the door many times, but no one answered, even though sounds of the television and electric fan could be heard from inside and the lights were still on. Feeling uneasy, she continued knocking harder and calling out loudly. After a while, Zainab opened the door. Her face was pale, sweat pouring down, her eyes filled with panic, her hands trembling. When asked about the strange smell, she replied quietly that she did not know, saying it might be garbage or sewage water. When asked why she did not open the door earlier, she said she had been in the bathroom, but her shaking voice and avoiding eyes made the landlady even more suspicious. Shortly after, the landlady called nearby neighbors and told them what had happened. Many people confirmed they had smelled the foul odor over the past few days but could not identify its source. No one had seen Ahmed leave the house, and Sonia had not been seen either. Faced with these clear abnormalities, the group decided to report the matter to the police. When authorities arrived, the house door was locked from the outside. However, the television and fan were still running continuously. Sensing something suspicious, the police broke the lock and rushed inside. The moment they entered, a horrifying scene appeared. The room was messy, and the smell of decomposing human flesh was overwhelming. In the kitchen, a large pot was boiling, containing parts of a human body being cooked with spices. On the floor nearby, a metal trunk contained the head, arms, and legs of a man, At that moment, Zainab was still in the kitchen, holding a knife, trying to cook the body parts thoroughly. When questioned by the police, she did not run away and did not cry. She only said, "Take me to the police station. I will tell everything." Right after breaking into the house, the police quickly sealed off the scene. The entire house was filled with a haunting stench, spreading from the kitchen to the living room. The first thing they saw was a large metal trunk containing the head, 2 arms, and 2 legs of a man. The separated torso was found in the kitchen. A part of it was being cooked in a large pot with turmeric, salt, and water. Next to it were kitchen knives, a wooden cutting board, blood-stained gloves, and sharp tools such as a small axe and a cleaver. Strangely, there were no signs of struggle in the house, no furniture was broken, and there were no drag marks of blood. Everything was unusually clean, except for the kitchen area. The room where the victim used to sleep was still tidy, as if he had voluntarily laid on the bed before dying. There was no suicide note, and no signs of theft or robbery. Ahmed Abbas's wallet, phone, and personal documents were all intact. The identity of the victim was quickly confirmed. It was Ahmed Abbas, the second husband of Zainab. The woman was taken to the police station that same night. When questioned at the scene, she did not panic or resist. She only stayed silent and calmly said, "Let me tell everything at the station." Investigators later took statements from relatives and neighbors. From that, the police learned that Ahmed had repeatedly abused his wife and stepdaughter. Neighbors confirmed that sounds of arguments, crying, and things breaking were often heard from the apartment. But no one ever intervened because it was someone else's family matter. No one had seen Ahmed leave the house in the days prior. As for Sonia, Zainab's daughter, she was not at the scene. This led the police to temporarily suspect that the girl was either missing or involved. However, just a few hours later, Sonia was confirmed to be safe at her maternal uncle's house. She was the one who directly provided the first important information, revealing the sickening threat that both mother and daughter had endured for many years. Right after examining the scene, the number 1 suspect was identified as Zainab Bibi Ahmed, the wife, who was caught red-handed handling parts of the victim's body. However, what troubled the investigators was not the question of who killed, but why kill. Because the method of the crime was too brutal and irrational for a normal woman with no criminal record who had lived quietly for many years. At first, the police also considered other hypotheses such as suicide hypothesis, but it was immediately dismissed. No one could cut their own body into 62 pieces and cook them. Robbery hypothesis, also unconvincing. There was no loss of property, no signs of struggle. The door was intact, the lock untouched. Ahmed had no known enemies, and no suspicious individuals were seen around the boarding house at that time. Revenge hypothesis, there was no evidence. Ahmed had served in the military and later worked as a school supervisor, not a typical target for personal revenge. However, as the news spread in the neighborhood, neighbors began speaking up about what they had seen and heard. Ahmed was often drunk, yelling, breaking things, and had repeatedly chased and beaten his wife and stepdaughter. One person living next door said, "Every night we heard Zainab crying. One time she shouted, 'Do not touch my daughter,' back then. We just thought it was a regular couple's argument." These scattered pieces of information, along with Zainab's strange behavior, no panic, no regret, no attempt to justify, made the police suspect that the motive for murder was not simply domestic conflict. At this point, a man named Rajab, who had once had a close relationship with Zainab, began to be considered a suspect. According to Zainab's initial statement and some witness accounts, Rajab might have helped in the dismemberment and cooking of the body. In addition, Zahir, Zainab's nephew, was also suspected because he was present at the house during the time of the incident. However, to make a definitive conclusion, the police needed detailed statements from Zainab and her daughter Sonia. the only one believed to be the indirect victim of this tragedy. The major turning point of the case came from Zainab's detailed and eerily calm statement during interrogation at the police station. Throughout the first interrogation session, she avoided none of the questions. She confessed, "Yes, I am the one who killed Ahmed, and I will tell you why," from Zainab's account. The police reconstructed the horrifying picture behind the crime. Ahmed, once trusted as a husband and stepfather, had become a sexual threat to his wife's biological daughter. Not only did it stop at threats, Ahmed had repeatedly tried to approach Sonia physically and had openly declared that he wanted to marry her after divorcing Zainab. Zainab revealed that a few days before the crime, Ahmed placed divorce papers on the table and forced her to sign them. Zainab refused, fully understanding that he only wanted to legalize his sick relationship with her daughter. After many years of enduring beatings and threats, Zainab said, "I could not let him touch the girl. I had no other choice." Notably, when police examined call records and phone data, they discovered many calls and messages between Zainab and a man named Rajab, someone she had been involved with in the past, although there was not enough evidence to charge him. The tone of the messages showed coordination and even prior calculation. The next important lead came from Zainab's nephew, Zahir, who was arrested after police confirmed he was present at the house on the day of the crime, under investigative pressure. Zahir confessed that he, along with Rajab and Zainab, had worked together to strangle Ahmed to death and then dismember his body. Zahir said, "I could not stand him insulting and beating my aunt and sister Sonia for many years. He once said he would use a gun to shoot both of them." These statements matched the crime scene, especially the fact that the body parts were cooked not to be eaten, but to reduce the weight of the body, make it easier to handle, and mask the smell to mislead neighbors. In her final statement, Zainab clearly said, "I knew I would be arrested, but if I did not do it, I would lose my daughter forever." The case caused the entire direction of the investigation to change, from a brutal murder to a killing committed to protect a daughter's honor and safety. From that point on, public opinion became divided. Some were outraged, others were filled with sympathy. At the police headquarters, Zainab Bibi Ahmed officially gave her confession. No screaming, no crying, no attempt to deny responsibility. The 42-year-old woman sat upright, her voice calm to a chilling degree. She admitted that she directly participated in killing her husband, Ahmed Abbas, and was also the one who cooked the body parts. In her statement, Zainab said that Ahmed had abused both mother and daughter for many years. When sober, he appeared normal, but whenever he drank alcohol, he became violent, beating his wife and child without reason. The situation reached its peak when Ahmed began looking at Zainab's daughter with sick intentions, constantly making threats and forcing Zainab to divorce so that he could marry Sonia. Zainab testified that Ahmed directly said that if she did not agree, he would kill both mother and daughter. He also boasted that he owned a gun and was ready to use violence. Those threats forced Zainab to live in constant fear. She believed that running away or seeking help was meaningless because Ahmed would find them at any cost. The most outrageous detail was revealed when Zainab recounted that Ahmed had tied Sonia's legs with iron chains, beaten her, and used humiliating and degrading language, although he had not yet committed sexual assault. According to Zainab, it was only a matter of time. The motive for the crime did not come from money or personal hatred, but from a mother's instinct to protect her daughter to the very end. Zainab clearly stated that she accepted going to prison, but she could not allow her daughter to live the rest of her life in a nightmare. That confession caused the entire interrogation room to fall into silence, because the boundary between crime and desperation in this case was terrifyingly thin. On November 24, 2011, Zainab Bibi Ahmed was arrested at the scene. Inside the very house where the crime occurred, she did not flee and did not resist. Instead, Zainab actively cooperated with the police and requested to be taken to the station to give a full statement. Her nephew, Zahir, was also arrested shortly afterward after being identified as a direct participant in the crime. As for Rajab, who was believed to be the main accomplice in strangling and dismembering Ahmed Abbas, he fled on the day of the incident and has not been captured to this day. At the first trial, Zainab's testimony shocked public opinion in Pakistan. Before the court, she did not deny her crime and did not ask for a reduced sentence. She repeatedly emphasized one thing: "I killed to save my daughter." She detailed years of abuse, threats to force her daughter, and the fear that the law could not protect them in time. The trial became tense when Sonia, Zainab's daughter, testified, confirming that she had been beaten by her stepfather, had her legs chained, and was subjected to severe verbal humiliation. This testimony caused the entire courtroom to fall silent and also changed public perception of the case. In 2018, the court sentenced Zainab and Zahir to life imprisonment. This verdict sparked much controversy. One side argued that dismembering and cooking a body was unforgivable. The other side believed this was a crime committed after being pushed to the end of desperation. After the verdict, Zainab and Zahir filed an appeal. In 2022, the High Appellate Court overturned the life sentence, considering that the victim was a severe abuser with intentions to sexually assault a minor. Both were released after spending 11 years in prison. Rajab remains missing, with no further information to date. So after everything, Zainab and Zahir, two people once sentenced to life imprisonment for murder and dismemberment, were released after more than a decade behind bars. They walked out of prison having paid the price of 11 lost years of youth. But the question that still haunts Pakistani society, and those who followed the case from afar, is: has justice truly been served? Or has it merely stopped at a compromise? Because Ahmed Abbas, the victim, was also a villain in the eyes of many. A man who beat, threatened to kill, chained a young girl with iron, and tried to force her into becoming his wife. But he died. Died in the very house that once sheltered those pains. Died at the hands of the woman who once called him husband. Zainab did not deny the brutal act. She took full responsibility, blamed no one, asked for no leniency. But the way she planned, coordinated, and cooked the body, even if only to cover up the crime, still sent chills down many spines. A crime is still a crime, no matter what the reason behind it may be. On another side, Sonia, the young girl who nearly became the victim of a pervert, now carries lifelong psychological scars. She lost her mother for 11 years of her youth, once witnessed her stepfather beat her mother, and knew that her own life was the reason her mother had to kill. And somewhere out there, Rajab, the mysterious man who once had a romantic relationship with Zainab and was accused of being an accomplice to murder, is still free. He disappeared right after locking the door and fleeing, and no trace of him has been found to this day. So in this story full of blood and tears, who is truly to blame? Ahmed for spreading fear, Zainab for choosing an extreme solution, Zahir for aiding the killing, or society itself for turning a blind eye to years of abuse? Who do you think holds the greatest guilt in this case? Do you agree with the court's verdict? Leave your thoughts below, because it is these different perspectives that help us better understand the tragedies behind every sentence.